Hey Ronsicle, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to talk about and tier rank Sapphic tropes in media. I'm a big fan. I watched a lot of Sapphic movies and TV shows. I've read a lot of books, and I feel like I'm a bit of an expert. But if you don't agree with my opinions, it's okay. I'm happy that you enjoy tropes and books and media that I don't enjoy. It's not the reason to fight about it. I'm just here to entertain and to talk shit about certain things. Without further ado, because we do have a lot of tropes to tier rank, let's get into the template because I made one and it's good. And I'm going to leave the link down below if you want to do this video or do it on Twitter or whatever. So let's go through the tiers. The first tier is the top tier, obviously, and it means that the trope is top tier, it's the best, I love it. The next one is slept on, which is a trope I think people are sleeping on. I think it's really good, but people are not appreciating it as much as I do. The next one is it's valid. Perhaps it's not my favorite, but I think it's a valid representation, or perhaps it's a valid trope to include because it's someone else's experience, or maybe this kind of experience is actually pretty common and we're just tired of it because we've seen a lot of it in media, but in general I don't feel like it's bad to portray that. The next one is can live without it, which means I can read something that doesn't have this trope and be very happy about that. Basically, this tier is for the tropes that I don't consider to be interesting anymore or I don't like generally. So let's get into those tropes because I really sat down and really thought about them. The first trope on my template is accidental touch. It's usually a moment in a lot of romantic movies where two protagonists that were pining for each other for a very long time but were kind of secretive about it accidentally touch. I think it's a top tier trope. Like, it's really good, especially when the tension is so high and the characters are just brushing against each other. It's better when it's not on purpose also. When it's done well, it's really good. So I'm putting it into top tier, obviously. The next one is controversial, it's age gap. We all know that the first trope that is thrown under the bus when we talk about Sapphic, or rather bad Sapphic representation, it's arguable, is age gap, which always is funny to me. People are very against age gaps. I think it's because a lot of teenagers are on the internet, and honestly sometimes I think they shouldn't be on the internet. I'm very sorry. I was a teenager on the internet, but I wasn't as combative as teenagers today. The thing is, I think they don't understand that adults date older people than themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're in your 20s, you are an adult. I know it's shocking information for you, but you are. There are certain struggles to age gap relationships that I would actually want to be discussed more in media because usually it's brushed over. People that have 10 or so years between them kind of see the world differently because they were raised in different times, and also they are often in different stages of life. Not to say that age gap relationships never work out. Sometimes they do work out, but it takes a lot of maturity from the younger partner and a lot of patience from the older partner to make this whole thing work. But in general, I don't mind them. I'm not a big fan of them, but I don't mind them. I don't see them as this big evil that everyone needs to shit on because it is not it, you guys. And I'm not talking about relationships between teenagers and adults. I'm talking about relationships between two adults. Also, we all need to grow up at this point. Like, you're in your 20s, stop pretending that you're a child. It's not as cute as you think it is. Actually a red flag for me, to be honest. So, age gap. I feel like it's valid. Not my favorite, but it's valid. And a lot of great films are with two actresses that have an age gap, and I don't mind it. The next one is all girls school, and I just love it. I unashamedly love it. I realize that there is quite a privilege when it comes to boarding schools in general because they are private schools, but The way I dreamed when I was a teenager to be in an all-girls school, you have no idea. The fantasies that I had. I was obsessed with boarding schools in general, but all-girls boarding schools, it was something. I loved the idea of that. I just think it's so neat to be among girls. I also heard that a lot of queer stuff is happening in those dorm rooms, and I feel big FOMO because I was not in an all-girls school. We also don't have any, and I don't think we have any boarding schools either. So if you have not read Her Royal Highness by Rachel Hawkins, you need to jump on that. It's a royal romance, but it's also set in a boarding school. It's not an all-girls school, and it's so cute. It's so funny. It's really good. I think it's gonna be a slept on tier. I don't think a lot of people enjoy all-girls school settings in general. So the next trope is, and they were roommates, and it's basically the trope where two women live with each other for a very, very long time. Everyone knows that they are queer and they are girlfriends or perhaps even wives, and everyone is invalidating it and just saying that they are roommates. I feel like if it's something that is done ironically, it will work, but if it's just subtext instead of giving me text, I don't like it. I think I can live without it. I'm not especially fond of this trope. I don't know anyone who is, to be honest. The next trope is butch with commitment issues, and it's a very, 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 very popular trope in queer media made by queer people for queer people, and I fucking hate it. I hate it so much. I think it's absolute trash. The only piece of media where it was done well and didn't come off as a fuckboy thing, I'm looking at you, Shane, was actually surprisingly Generation Q. Surprisingly because, interestingly enough, I think Generation Q is subpar to the beast that is the L Word. It's just not the same show. But Finley was also butch and also had some commitment issues, but her commitment issues were tied to her religious background, which I think was actually a pretty interesting storyline. Otherwise, we just get really hot butch women that are just not into committing. And I'm like, you do know that butch women are not monolith. If it's a polyamory thing, I get it, although not for me. But when it comes to like generally portraying butch women as shitheads that are serial cheaters, that get into monogamous relationships to cheat all the goddamn time and represent the fuckboy population of the Sapphic community, I just don't live for that. And I think we all would agree that it needs to go to the bin, so can live without it, honestly. Like, I don't need any more of that. The next trope is caught in the act / blackmailing. Usually caught in the act leads to blackmailing somehow, or just repercussions in general for the characters. Caught in the act can be like caught mid-kiss, mid-holding hands, mid-having sex, which is the worst. The severity of that also depends on who caught them. If it's the parents and they are assholes, then it's really bad. But we see them done in a lot of different ways. I would consider also caught in the act to be parent reading their child's diary or some emails and figuring out that they are queer. We saw it in the Miseducation of Cameron post, which was a parental figure finding out about her being queer and sending her to the Christian camp. Oh, the movie that was just horrible about that. I feel like it's a really good movie though. The First Girl I Loved, which is just dark. It's about this girl that falls in love with her classmate who's very popular, and the classmate actually reciprocates her feelings, but then they are on the dance floor and they are getting like way too close, and I think they even kiss, and one of their other classmates takes a photo of them, and the girl that she had a crush on turns on her and says that she was molested. It's so tough to watch. The movie is so well done. Highly recommend it if you can stomach the topic. Either way, caught in the act and blackmailing in general, I can live without, I think. Like, I'm done with it. I think I'm done. I mean, it's valid, it's someone else's experience, but at this point I just don't want to see it personally. The next one is childhood friends, and I think it's an unpopular opinion. A lot of Sapphic media and a lot of Sapphic stories are centered around having a crush on your straight friend, and I never understood it. I'm just not attracted to my friends. Sometimes it's done well. Sometimes. But in general, it's not going to make me more hyped for the book or the movie if I'm going to be told that it's about childhood friends turned into lovers. So I think I can live without it. Oh, my list is growing. So the next one is Enemies to Lovers, which I love. I am that bitch. I love Enemies to Lovers, or in general like Dislike to Lovers, or like a Botch to Meet Cute, where usually like in romantic comedies it would be a meet cute, but it's actually horrible and they now kind of hate each other. Everything to do with rivalry, I eat up. I think Atypical did a really good job with that. That storyline is just top tier. I loved it so much. I lived for this couple. Honestly, the only reason why I watched Atypical in the first place. So, top tier. I want more books, more movies. The next one is Falling for a Married Partnered Woman. And it's also the trope that people are throwing around when the conversation about bad representation happens. But is it not really realistic? I have so many Sapphic friends that had some kind of entanglements with partnered women. I think a lot of people go through that phase when they are younger. Do I want to see it personally as much in media? Not really, but I also get it. It's to introduce some tension and conflict into the story, so it makes sense from the storyline point of view. I don't know, should I put it into it's valid, or are you going to drown me for it? Is it the rite of passage that everyone needs to know about, or it's just outdated at this point? I also think it was a very popular trope before being gay in the West was somewhat normalized or became more accepted in general, because it didn't feel that forbidden. It felt kind of like, oh, I'm pitying this woman because she got married and she didn't realize before that she's gay. I don't know how to explain it better. I think I'm going to put it into Can't Live Without It, because generally I can't live without it. The next one is Falling for a Straight Girl, which is kind of similar but a bit different. I think Falling for a Straight Girl is just formative experience at this point. I didn't experience, but experienced it through my friends, to be honest. Because I'm just into people that are into me, so I'm just that self-involved. I'm not into like pining after someone that is completely unavailable, because who has the time? But I get it. I think it's very common because our sexuality is not written on our foreheads. People are hot in general, so that happens. And sometimes a straight girl is not a straight girl at the end of the day. The half of it was very good, and it also was about falling for a straight girl. And she might not be that straight, so, you know, it's valid. The next one is Femme. And I feel like I cannot put it into top tier or slept on with good conscience, because almost every FF relationship that we see on screen features a femme and a femme. And it's not very representative of the community, because there are a lot of bitch women and they do date each other, but I don't think that the directors or the producers either know that or care about that because they want to make the movie or the show marketable. Masculinity is just not hot with the guys. I generally don't mind it. I date femme women mostly myself, but I don't want to cancel it either. I think it's going to go into it's valid. The next one is a relationship between a popular and a nerd girl, and I love that shit. I definitely have some unsolved issues from my teenage years. I just think it's so hot and good, and it's just good. It's just good because usually like the popular girl is keeping a secret, no one knows that she's gay, and she's developing this crush on this nerdy girl. Like maybe they spend time with each other because they need to do some projects for school. I love that. The book that has the trope is Style, and it's pretty good. The movie that has this trope is 𝕊𝕋𝕊𝕋𝕸𝕃, which is Swedish, I think. It's been a while since I've seen that movie, but it does have a happy ending, and in general it's pretty cute. So popular, nerdy, top tier, honestly. Do I need to say more? The next one is Found Family, and it will be forever in my top tier. It's one of my favorite tropes in general, and I think it is much better when it is a queer novel. We don't see it a lot in movies in general. A lot of Sapphic movies lack the queer aspect, like the queer community aspect. The next one is Happy Ever After, and I just think we need to check it without even talking about it. I feel like dramas are valid if it's the genre, if you're going for tragedy, if it makes sense with the story, if it's a biopic about someone that actually died, like it makes sense, obviously. But in general, I'm always for a happy ending. It's just the person that I am. So we're going to check it into Can Live Without It. The next one is Intense I Fucking, and we love it. I think that the Sapphic community always loved it. The amount of gifs on Tumblr that I had to see of Queen Fabre and Rachel Berry just staring at each other, it's an uncountable number. So I feel like it's top tier. The next one is It's Forbidden, and I specifically want you to understand that I don't mean teacher-student or psychiatrist and patient, because that is not the trope that I'm talking about. I do have teacher-student separately. It's Forbidden is for movies that are set in places where being gay is illegal. It's a valid trope. I'm not especially jazzed to watch these movies, but I think if we're going to ignore them, or ignore this trope, I guess, and pretend that we live in a bubble, it's going to breed ignorance, which is something that I noticed, because not everyone realizes that not everything is bright and jazzy as it is in the places they live in. So I feel like it's necessary sometimes, so it's valid. And the next trope is keeping a secret from family, which controversially I also think is very valid. A lot of people that live in the West, especially in America for some reason, are hard-pressed to make other people come out, which is very stupid because you literally do not understand how the life works in different countries. And for some people, coming out is just not something they can do. Like, they just cannot do that. So this is for the characters that are out to their friends and out in general, but are not out to their family. So the happy season types of situations. And I, coming from a place that I'm coming from, feel like it's very valid, and it's just not your business. It's not that they enjoy it, they just have to. The next one is labels. What labels? And it's for very, very ridiculous moments in TV shows and movies where the character is asked what their label is and they are deflecting it. Sometimes it can be ridiculous. I'm thinking about Teenage Bounty Hunters, a TV show that is pretty good and that was cancelled recently. It's a Netflix TV show. There was a character that was exploring her sexuality, and she told her sister, I think, that her sexuality is more on the pink, blue, and violet spectrum, which I think means bisexual, but she never says bisexual. They were trying to make a joke maybe, but it just came off so terribly. Labels, what labels? We don't like it. I think in general, especially when it comes to sexualities that are not as discussed in media, it would benefit people that identify with them to be mentioned sometimes in media. I can live without this trope. The next one is Let's Practice for the Boys. And this one is just slapped on. It's so good. I lived it, I know it, it's really good. Trust me on that. The fun part about this trope is that you both know that you're not practicing for the boys, but you need to say that because you're kind of unsure that the other one knows that you're not practicing for the boys. It's just so good. I love it. And it's slept on. I don't think people love it as much as I do. The next one is Mom is the homophobic one. And I strongly oppose to this trope because my experience was completely different. Like, I just don't understand why the moms need to be the homophobic ones in Sapphic movies specifically. Moms usually are more understanding. I kind of feel like dads are more difficult. The next one is mutual pining. Mutual pining is everything. It's so good. It's so good. It has so much tension. It's just really, really good. Do I need to say more? Mutual pining is that bitch. It's that bitch. And we're going to put it into top tier, obviously. The next one is near miss kiss. It's a term for a kiss that almost happened but was interrupted, and I personally live for it. I don't know how many people enjoy it, but it's one of my favorites. The tension immediately is so high, but it has to be done in the right moment. We need to feel the tension between the characters first and then to get this. I think one of my favorites is the near miss kiss in Saving Face. If you've seen the half of it by Alice Wu and you have not seen Saving Face, it's an actual crime. Because Saving Face is, I feel like it's controversial, but to me, it feels like it's a better movie. Maybe it's because it's about adults and it's a romantic comedy, and I am partial to romantic comedies and adult media. So Near Miss Kiss, I think, is slept on. I don't see many people discussing this trope, but it's golden. The next one is No Electricity. I don't know who started it, but basically on Twitter someone said, I'm tired of movies about Sapphic women with no electricity. Basically, they meant that they're tired of period dramas. And I'm just the opposite. I love period dramas. I live on period dramas. I breathe period dramas. You know that I love historical fiction in general, and historical queer fiction just hits the spot. I love it. I love it. I feel like people are tired of them, but I'm never going to be tired of them. Just give me all of them. Give me more. Give me more. I obviously think that we need more queer films set in modern times, but back off from my period films. Just back off. No Electricity. Slept on. I love it. I love them. We're just never going to agree on that. Next one is owns a cat/dog. Do I like it? I honestly don't care. I love animals, but I don't care about this trope. But it's valid. Like, a lot of queer people have animals. The next one is Priest's Wife, and I do not like it. A lot of Sapphic films are about religion somehow. It's about like the conflict between your religious beliefs and your sexuality. And as an atheist, I never had that, and I don't care for it, so I can live without it. I don't even want to discuss it. Priest's Wife is honestly a pretty popular romantic interest for some reason. The next one is putting makeup on each other or playing dress up. And I feel like it's so good. It's so flirty, it's so good. It's just so satisfying. Like, you know something is gonna happen. They are alone in the room. They're trying to be very girly and pretend that it's just a regular sleepover, but it's not. Oh my god, I love it so much. People definitely do not talk about it as much, but I love it, so I'm gonna put it into slept on. And the next one is Same Ex-Boyfriend, which is also one of my favorites. I don't know why. I just don't know why, but I love it. It's one of the tropes that is present in The Circle by Sarah B. Elfbrand and Matt Strandberg. It is a series, a trilogy of urban fantasy / contemporary fantasy books about a witch circle, and there is a Sapphic couple. The romance is very slow burn. The two girls in which dated the same loser, and I love that. I'm putting it into top tier. I know that many other people love it as well. The next one is Secret Crush, which I don't have any feelings about, to be honest. I honestly don't mind it, and I don't love it either, so I think it's gonna go into valid. The other trope is Secretly Unhinged, and it's pretty popular trope in Sapphic thrillers. They're not really Sapphic. Usually these movies are directed by men. I'm thinking 𝕊𝕆 as an example, and they just don't give the Jennifer's body experience. Like, the Jennifer's body is the best when it comes to unhinged romantic interests, and I'm just not going to argue with you if you do not consider this movie Sapphic, because I value my mental health. Secretly Unhinged stems from a specific time period where you could not publish Sapphic or gay romances or books with a happy ending or a non-problematic love interest. Something fucked up had to happen, otherwise they wouldn't publish it at all. So I feel like it's outdated. I would like to see more thrillers. So Secretly Unhinged is just not the trope for me. I don't care for it anymore, or rather I never cared about it. The next one is She's a Photographer. This trope is funny because for some reason every queer woman on screen is always a photographer. It's as if queer women cannot hold any office jobs. I don't know what's up with that, but I'm ready to see some kindergarten teachers, I'm ready to see some social workers, I'm ready to see doctors and lawyers. Well, we had a few lawyers, but not as many as photographers. Also ready to see something that is not a police officer, because why? Would like a bus driver or something unusual like that. She's a Photographer is not especially offensive, but it is unoriginal, so we're going to get rid of that one. The next one is Suit for Prom. For some reason, I don't know why, but a lot of creators of queer content think that queer women cannot go to prom without rocking a suit. I personally love a woman in a suit, but it's also so overused that at this point I feel like they just are unaware that queer women like dresses, some of them. I understand that my complaint about not seeing butch women on screen is kind of contradictory to that, but also at the same time it's two different things, because the women that are wearing suits are pretty feminine. You know what I mean? Suits are fine, I think they're valid, but also would like to see some variety in terms of prom outfits. The next one is Teacher Student, and I never liked it, and I definitely can do without it. The next one is We're Not Gay, We're Just Into Each Other, and it ties a little bit into labels, what labels, but it's just, this is a really phrase that I hear sometimes in movies or TV shows where characters are like accused, much that, accused of being gay, and they say, we're not gay, we're just really into each other. What you're talking about, gays are despicable and ugly and dirty, we're not gay. It's also internalized homophobia, but I decided to name it that because this phrase is like a red cloth to a bull for me, and I want to put it into Can't Live Without It, but also I want to put it into trash. The next one is Women Are So Soft, It's Easier with a Girl, and I also want to put it in trash. Another phrase that is the red cloth to a bull for me. It's just not a good one. First of all, it places all relationships between women as safe and very soft and very healthy, and it's not the case. You have to understand that you can date an abusive person and it can be a woman. I feel like this phrase is not just delusional, it's also harmful and it's stupid. I hate it. So I'm going to put it into Can't Live Without It. The next one is writing poems, letters, or in a diary. And popular opinion, also hate that. The way I don't like poetry is just an immediate turn off when people mention that they're writing poetry. So I'm like, please don't. It just feels so cheesy to me, I cannot explain why. I just don't like it. Also, if you're writing down something, this something can be found. And I'm not big on leaving material evidence, so I personally can live without it. So this is the final tier ranking. I do have quite a few tropes in Can't Live Without It, but I also have quite a few ones in top tier. If you want to argue with me about certain tropes or defend a certain trope that you like, or like talk about a certain execution that you like of a specific trope on this board, let's do it in the comments down below. Also, if you need recommendations for certain tropes, ask me in the comments down below. I will try to help you. After all, I've seen a lot of stuff and maybe other people would be kind enough to help you too. This is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was not very long. In the comments down below, leave the emoji of a rainbow or rainbow flag because it's a queer video. And I will see you soon with another one. But until then,